should be in the number. Oh, when we go to Bay
Oh, Marc, it was great to be back at the cricket live on the field this week, don't you agree?
I do agree. Yeah, I was down at Pukekura Park and you were...
At the Bay Oval. Oh, and welcome back everyone to episode 8 of Back of a Link podcast. We are absolutely amped to be here.
We certainly are. And first of all, yeah, we are both sunburnt. Yeah, I auditioned for Rudolph a little bit too late with my sunburn. Happy New Year to everybody, 2022. Yeah, hopefully we've got a lot of good, exciting things in store for this year for all of you guys.
Absolutely. This episode we will go through what's been happening in the world of cricket. There's so much happening. I've got very exciting news from the Big Bash. We will talk New Zealand Bangladesh. Ooh, what a game that was.
We have also got the update on the Ashes, which is obviously started today, the 4th test, and we've also got some big news coming from three big players in the world of cricket.
Yes, all that is coming up. And also at the Bay Oval, you would have heard a little chant there at the start. We've got so many chants recorded. We're going to slot a few in. If you like them, let us know. Let us know what you think. If you like them, if you hate them. Obviously, how will you hate them?
We hope you like them.
Don't hate them. Yeah, you better like them, because I had the greatest time singing along there. So hopefully you will like hearing them too. Huge week in cricket around the world, as we said, so let's do a sweep. No pun this week. Had enough.
Thank God for that.
So I'm too excited by some huge news across the ditch. Let's start off with the Big Bash. You'll never believe it, Marc. The Renegades had their best week yet. Firstly, they had a draw thanks to the rain.
That was definitely an improvement on every other result they've got so far in this competition.
And then, Marc, the Renegades beat the Melbourne Stars. Would you believe it? Finchy coming out with a 50. Their first win. I'm so excited.
I actually don't believe it, so I'm just going to double check that this is actually true, because they are pretty awful most of the time. Did they actually win?
With like 2 overs to spare. They chased down the target.
Wow. That's obviously a huge result for the Renegades. Hopefully they can kick on now from this and get some more points on the board. Aaron Finch with a 50. He is obviously their gun sort of batsman. He was missing the first 3 or 4 games, I think, so to have him back in the side obviously has spurred them on. There were also wins for the Strikers, the Scorchers and the Heat. Colin Munro, I think, carried on, apart from yesterday's game, carried on his good form. We don't really need to talk too much more about him. We've talked about him for quite a few episodes in a row, so he's just carried on where he left off. The other
playing India.
Cricket world, the other cricket news, South Africa playing India.
Jump the gun there, I'm too excited.
Yeah, that's so good, excited. I can tell. You're raring to go. Let's get through this episode. South Africa played India, and India took the first test on what was, in my opinion, a shocking pitch. I don't know if you saw any of the game.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, there was. It was, pretty average. Very tough for the batsmen. But yeah, they won the first test by 113 runs. There wasn't really much in the way of stand-up performers from either side, I don't think. Certainly not from the batsmen. There were 2 low scores. Shami got a 5 in the first innings, which you would expect with him just bowling that niggling 9 and length and just making the most of the conditions of the pitch. Second test is currently ongoing, and a bit like the first, is a bit rain affected. India are currently 58 runs ahead, 2 down in their second innings there.
Yeah, I expect India probably to take a sweep on that series, even though they are in South Africa. Still keeping an eye on that, South Africa. They are here this year, we can say that now. That series between New Zealand is inching closer. Meanwhile, the 4th Ashes test starts today with a lot of rain.
Yep, thankfully, our prediction of 3-1 is being saved by the rain, because we honestly think it's going to be 5-0 if the rain stays away. But yeah, just looking across at the moment, they've been off the field for probably close to a couple of hours now due to rain. So yeah, coming to England's aid, making sure that there is no possible 5-0 clean sweep.
Broad knocking David Warner off there for the 13th time in Test matches. Speaking of Stuart Broad, he's come out this week writing a piece for the Daily Mail about the England preparation for this Ashes. Now, did you manage to see that one, Marc?
I haven't read it yet. No, I have not.
It's very interesting. He said that they've had 4 months off, they've had so much MIQ, and they had a rained out practice that the English team absolutely undercooked. They also said that although they're in the T20 World Cup, that's really not good enough, and the Aussies had half their test squad playing state cricket as a warm-up. And they also said that they spent day 2 of the Boxing Day test having COVID test results, moving rooms, and now have a number of coaching staff tested positive for COVID-19. So they're just at the end of their MIQ bubble COVID tether.
Yeah.
Is this an excuse? Is he saying it's an excuse? I don't think so, but...
I don't think he's saying it's an excuse per se, because I think he'd probably be the first one to come out and say that the performances, regardless of any build-up, haven't been good enough. But if you look at it, I mean, Australia, they've been playing state cricket for the first half of their summer. And the other guys that weren't playing state cricket were playing in a T20 World Cup. England, in essence, have 2 completely different teams. They've got a Test team and a T20 team. So I don't see any reason why the Test team couldn't have gone over a few weeks earlier, really settled into MIQ and came out and had a few more warm-up games. Generally, an Ashes series would start around about the middle of November. The touring team would go over, this is in Australia, the touring team would go over and they'd get there at the end of October and they'd play Australia A, they'd play the likes of Queensland State, they'd play Victoria, they'd have 3 or 4 3-day warm-up games. Australia's game was also an inter-squad practice game that was rained off, but they have had state cricket. The thing that annoyed me the most about this was Australia, and obviously their previous captain Tim Payne came out and said, well, an England team will come over, it's the Ashes, they have to come over. Whether Joe Root's part of that team or not, we'll wait and see, but England should be over. Australia haven't played a bloody away game for almost 2.5 years.
Really?
They've not played an away game, an away test game, since the start of COVID. They've only played home games. So the audacity to come out and say that England need to come over and play and, MIQ is fine, this, that and the other. They've not had that much MIQ. They've not had living out of a suitcase in a foreign hotel, foreign media, foreign conditions where they can only stick to themselves, only stick to their bubble. It has to have a mental effect on the players. What I don't necessarily think they can use as an excuse was the fact that he's alluded in the first part of the column to having 4 months off from Test cricket and then saying that there's MIQ fatigue. If you've had 4 months off, you've not been in MIQ for 4 months, you've not been going from hotel to hotel to hotel, so that to me is not an excuse. As for I think it's 7 members of the coaching staff have now had positive COVID tests. At what point do you say that this is becoming too close to the playing squads whereby the rest of the tour gets called into question? You remember India, when they toured against England, they called it off because 2 of their coaching staff had COVID positive results. If you've got 7, it could spread to the players in the England team, who then spread it to the Australian team, who then spread it around their families and stuff. I think it's getting to a point where it must be perilously close to getting called off.
We'll have to wait and see on that one. Obviously they've started the 4th test, so you would expect that one to continue in a very, very tight bubble. We'll wait and see what happens on that one. Meanwhile, huge news for 3 players this week, announcing their retirements. Firstly, the wonderful Ross Taylor will finish at the end of this season. This Bangladesh is his last test series, and then he will play the 2 ODI series against Australia and the Netherlands. What a career. We will celebrate Ross Taylor closer to his final game. We don't want to start the long, slow march yet. But
we'll do a Ross Taylor episode, I think. But he's been obviously a great player for New Zealand cricket. I generally had a feeling when you saw how he played against India in India, you kind of got the feeling that maybe he was in a state of mind where he just thought, you know what, I don't know if I enjoy doing this anymore. The tough, hard yards. So probably thought for the benefit of the team that it would be best for him to step aside. The great news about that is, and it's bad news all around for New Zealand cricket, but the good news is that Will Young and Devin Conway no longer appear to be in a playoff for a position, because you would likely put Devin Conway down at 4, which I think actually strengthens your middle order a little bit, because he is obviously in unbelievable form.
We will come to Devin Conway a little bit later. Also, Mohammad Hafiz from Pakistan announcing his retirement from international cricket. He will still continue to play in some T20 franchises. And the most surprising is Quinton de Kock announcing retirement from Test cricket. What is he up to? Yeah,
this is an interesting one, because you've obviously put here this is a long-term solution to a short-term issue, and we know Quinny de Kock has had issues with bubbles, but he's only retiring from test matches. Test matches, you would play most of them in your own country, or you play 50% of them in your own country through your own summer. There's only a limited number of places that you can go June, July, August, September, which is England, or possibly somewhere like the West Indies, but even then that's, so he's actually most likely going to go and play franchise cricket around the world, which is bubbles, which his reason for retiring from Test cricket was to spend more time with family. Is he actually going to spend more time with family, or is he going to go and play the franchise cricket? Which, if he does choose to do that, is absolutely fine. He's got a young family that he needs to take care of and secure their financial future, so that's not an issue per se. But he'll be a miss in the test arena. And it's just another big name player who's not going to be available for South Africa. You look at the likes of the players that they've had previously. AB de Villiers has just retired. Duane Olivier has chosen to play in the UK and sacrifice his South African career. You've had a number of players who have chosen to do that over a period of time. South African cricket, now you look at the team, I think we said it when we talked about AB de Villiers, there's no real standout household name in that team anymore. Maybe Kagiso Rabada is the only one.
Yeah, Van der Dussen in the shorter format as well comes to mind. I think it's a massive blow for South Africa. I haven't read more than just his retirement notice. I always wonder if there's been a bit of Quinton de Kock versus the South African Cricket Board, where there's a bit of bad blood. We know he had some bad blood with them at the T20 World Cup as well. I mean, credit to him, he's made his choice. I think it's a massive loss for South Africa, and I think it's not as simple as I want to spend time with my family. It's either going to play franchise cricket or there's some bad blood.
Yeah, that's it, especially with just retiring from test match cricket. You either want to represent your country or you don't want to represent your country.
I also think Quinton de Kock's best form is his test game. He doesn't really strike me as a standout T20 or ODI player. Of course, he has some phenomenal, he's had some really great games, but in my mind, Quinton de Kock is a test player. He also, of course, will give up the gloves in that test team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who takes over that. I think Quinton de Kock is a decent player. He's just not consistent enough in the 2020 format, in the franchise format, which is probably one area you'd look at. But again, test matches, it'd be interesting to see what his average actually is, because he's probably similar to Ben Stokes in a way. Actually, Ben Stokes, you'd think, is an amazing player with the bat, but he comes up with these scores of like 150, 120 and stuff, and you're thinking, well, he's taking the game away from the opposition because of how aggressive he is when he gets those scores. But he also has a lot of sort of 20s and 30s, so I'd have to look up his actual stats in terms of his batting average, which I can do very quickly whilst I'm talking, because I have loads of screens. So we go
what a brag.
Test. I know, Jesus.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking Quinton de Kock.
Quinton de Kock's test match average is 38, which is actually higher than I thought it would be, to be fair.
Oh,
but
yeah,
still,
I guess so.
He's a middle order, number 6, I think. So.
It's sort of chops between that middle order sometimes an opener. Won't be here from the New Zealand shores, because that retirement, I believe, is effective either immediately or after this. I don't even know if he will play the next India game against India, I should say. So we have to see how South Africa fares without Quinton de Kock.
Yeah, he is not playing the current test match.
Done
so it looks as though Vereen, I think, is the keeper. a guy I've never heard of. He got 21. Let's just have a look. Yeah, wicketkeeper Kyle Verreyn, and I apologise if there's any South Africans and that is an incorrect pronunciation. But he's taken the gloves for the second test. So, it looks as though it is an effective, immediate decision. Which, again, casts doubt on whether it is actually for his family or whether it has been a disagreement with the board. Because if it's looking after your family, you'd probably look to see this series out, I would say, but...
I believe his child is due very soon, so that could be played a part as well. So that is our sweep for the week. Some really mixed sweep, and there's some huge news. But let's talk about what was the most exciting. Up next, New Zealand Bangladesh review.
The first test finished today between the Blackcaps and Bangladesh, and some might say it was a surprising result for Bangladesh to come away there with the victory. I'll let you do most of the review because you were there. However, a couple of observations I made, or I would like to put in, was that I think New Zealand got it wrong in terms of their setup. I think they put on a green pitch and they hoped that they would bowl first, put Bangladesh under pressure, pile on a shed load of runs, and then skittle them in the second game, and didn't really have a plan B. We talk a lot about statistics and teams having a plan A and no real plan B, because England obviously in the Ashes haven't had a plan B so far. The pitch was green on the first day, it was doing bits. Second day it got brown, and then the third, fourth, fifth day it just got flat. Do you think New Zealand should have possibly played a spinner who in his last game got 10 wickets?
I always think that they should have played a spinner in his last game who should have 10 wickets. We were lucky enough to be on. I was lucky enough to be there at days 1, 2, and part of day 3. Having a yarn with Neil Wagner, who came down to the boundary line as he was fielding, and he said they were hoping that the pitch would dry out and start breaking up, and then they could hit the cracks in the pitch to try get it to move. That was what he was hoping for. It didn't really turn out like that, or if it did, it didn't capitalise on it.
It's again, hoping for a pitch to behave in that way. Can you really set up a pitch that way? Can you really set up a pitch that is going to open up with cracks? I mean, it was roasting hot down at the Mount, as it has been across New Zealand. I've not seen a cloud this year so far. It has been scorching.
No, there were no clouds available. It was absolutely scorching. But you're right. I feel like they were hoping for things to happen, and then when New Zealand were batting, it was like they made mistakes. So we have in that first innings Devin Conway coming up with another Test 100, becoming one of the first players to score 100 in both his first away game and first home game for a cricket side. A little fact there.
That's a
I
good
was
fact.
really happy to see Henry Nicholls. That's a good fact. Really happy to see Henry Nicholls get up there with the 70. I don't think I made that prediction last week. Henry Nicholls, he's gonna have a good game. A lot of people don't always rate Henry Nicholls. I think he's really good. I think he's a battler. Really unfortunate for Will Young to be run out on about 50 or 60. Yeah, just really unfortunate. And then a middle order collapse.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately. Henry Nicholls had obviously a great first innings, got bowled by just a straight full one. I don't know if he got beaten for pace. It didn't really seem to do too much. Maybe it swung into him a touch and he played down the wrong line. And then, Blundell getting a fourth ball duck. That really gave Bangladesh the impetus to go into the final day. With their tails up, and they really did maximise it, taking 5 quick wickets in the morning session.
It really did feel like Bangladesh had more energy on the field. They were excited to be there. They had a game plan. They had more excitement than anything. I don't want to say the Blackcaps were complacent, but it felt like they thought it would be a lot easier than it was. Bangladesh,
I agree, and we did say, we said in the last episode that Bangladesh are one of those teams that will turn up and you never know what you're going to get. They will either pile on 400 runs and play really well, or you'll skittle them for 80. I just think, yeah, New Zealand probably were kind of expecting the first to happen, given how the ball behaved when New Zealand were batting. Although it didn't really do too much while New Zealand were batting. You look at that partnership between Devin Conway and I think it was it Ross Taylor who was out there for a while. They put on a really good partnership, and then obviously Henry Nicholls went on with that as well. The pitch didn't really seem to do too much, but in the second innings, just as you say, that final session towards the end of the day with Nicholls getting out and with Blundell getting out and Will Young obviously being run out there as well, sorted the result of that test match pretty quickly.
I'd also just like to point out innings 2, Bangladesh, they really hung in there when they were batting first. It was a slow day at the Bay Oval. I tell you, we were sitting there. I think the crowd were getting a bit antsy. There was a bit of I've never seen Mamadou hit a 4. He was just defending. He was on about, give or take 2 off 40 or something ridiculous like that. So it was a slow day, and then suddenly, you're having a yarn with your mates, you're having a drink, and then they're 20, and then they're on 35, and then they've got their half century. So Bangladesh just really grinded away in their innings and got the rewards, and our team just could not break any of that.
Yeah. Now, fair play to Bangladesh. As much as we can talk about how New Zealand got it wrong, Bangladesh were absolutely spot on. They had their plans right. They had the right personnel. We talked about how it was a relatively new, fresh blood team. I think that's probably a good thing from Bangladesh's perspective. No ghosts in the closet or anything like that. They came over. They've played a really good first test. Fully expect that New Zealand will bounce back in the second test. Do you expect any changes?
Well, there's a lot of talk around Tom Blundell, if he should continue in his role. Personally, I think he should stay. This is only his 3rd game as the wicket keeper, and I just feel like he's getting his wicket keeper nerves out of the way, and then he'll come back to his batting form. Personally, I'm also of the opinion that Hagley Oval is one of our greatest pitches. We don't lose at Hagley. So I think we might see the same team. The only change is whether you take Ratchet and Ravindra, but you would have to decide if you bring in another seamer, because your only other option would be to bring in Daryl Mitchell. Now, Daryl Mitchell did score 100 at Hagley Oval last year, so maybe.
And it's his home ground as well, so he will know the conditions better than most. I would probably say that New Zealand would stick with the same 11, especially with the middle order not firing on all cylinders. Ratcher and Ravindra does offer you that. I mean, Darren Mitchell obviously is a great batsman, but he just offers you something different as well. If you go in with 5 seamers, as we've seen with England, there is no plan B. There is nobody there who can, if the wicket does start turning, because, as I say, New Zealand as a whole has been red hot for the last week or so. So I can't imagine that the pitch would offer. If it is green, the grass probably will die pretty quickly if the weather remains the same. So yeah, I think you'd always have to pick a spinner, and with no Kane Williamson playing, then you have to have someone like Ratchet and Ravindra in the team. If Kane Williamson was there, you could say maybe he would turn his arm over, despite the fact that he seems effervescently reluctant to do so. But yeah, it will be interesting. I don't see Bangladesh changing their team. I think they're on a high. Everyone will have confidence, and they will look to show that this wasn't just a one-off. They will look to show that they are starting to become the real deal that everyone kind of hopes that they would be. But enough about on the field. Tell me more about off the field. How was it?
Well, off the field. This is when it's going. I tell you, I know I just tripped over my words there, Mark, but I was just so happy to be back at the cricket. Now, I went down with my friend Mike, and we caught up with a couple of his mates, and ended up forming just one big group. If you watched the game, or if you were at the game and you thought, wow, those are some loud people chanting, well, that was your girl. I was in on that crowd. The atmosphere off was so good. I want to give a massive shout out to New Zealand cricket for giving a lot of opportunities and being really supportive of the fans. Now, I sat down and I caught up with my mate, my new mate, JP. You will know him as the guy standing up, running around Bay Oval, doing all the chanting. And I said to him, why should we get involved with this chanting?
Well, this is probably the best team that I've seen in 33 years of my life. The best team that I've seen among the Blackcaps. So, literally every test is an opportunity to just show our support and let them know that we're here and that we appreciate how good they are as much as anything else.
Absolutely. And what's your favourite chant?
Well, my favourite one, to be fair, is probably the big Neil Wagner chant. And it's an oldie but a goodie. It's been around a long time. The Wagner Wonderland, which is going to be happening in about 10 minutes. I think.
I've heard Wagner's your favourite player.
This is 100% true. Yeah, 100% true. Yeah. Hopefully he comes down to the boundary soon. I can have a chat with him. He's a fantastic player. Probably my favourite player, not just because of his ability, but also he's probably one of the best guys you'll ever meet.
So thanks to JP for having a quick chat with me and leading all those chants. I don't think he has a voice anymore. We also had a lot of fun doing dress up day, so if you head over to the Instagram you'll see a picture of us all dressed up. We had a Ronald McDonald, we had Day of the Dead, we had a couple of sheriff costumes in there, and I did put on a sombrero for a little bit, but I have a really big head so I didn't wear it all day.
Is JP the same guy that we met last time at the Pakistan game who was doing the waggy waggy woo woo chants and all that?
Yes,
is that the same guy? Oh, it's the same fella.
That is the same guy. I will. There was good news though, Marc. There was no hot lap of the Bay Oval. Did not have to do that. There was a lot of games of catch, but no hot lap.
You say there was no hot lap, but there was. You may have seen the Twitter clips. You may not have seen the Twitter clips. There was one young lad who did do a hot lap of the Bay Oval. With a cricket ball in hand, and he ran around the whole pitch. I think this was day 4, and he then bowled to his dad, who got caught at cover and that section of the crowd, which I believe would be under Lighthouse 1 or Light Tower 1, which I think is where you guys were. That went off. So shout out to that little guy for getting his dad out after doing a lap of the Bay Oval. Kind of been easy because I've been to the Bay Oval when it's been hot, and there is no relief whatsoever. There is very limited areas of shade, so props to you guys for keeping that chanting going all day. We definitely heard it on the TV, and it was I wish I was there. I really wish I was there,
hopefully,
but unfortunately I was not.
We'll get you to another game. We'll also be back at Hagley Oval next week. Hopefully the Blackcaps will pick up against Bangladesh and the crowd will be as good. Let's hear another one of those chants now.
Walking along, singing a song, walking away to wonderland. Walking along, singing a song, walking away to wonderland.
So you had a great time at the Bay Oval. I spent my New Year's Eve at Pukekura Park watching the SuperSmash there, and I have to be honest, I'd seen Pukekura Park on the TV and thought those stands look super weird, and I thought I have to go and check it out. Tickets were really reasonably priced, as most of them are in SuperSmash, so it was an opportunity that I could not turn down. One of the best places I think I've been to watch a game of cricket, just because of the setting that it's in. So I did a full walk around Pukekura Park before we started, went to the zoo and stuff, and then sat down and watched some cricket on one of the banks, and it was awesome. The game that took place first was the Heinz versus the Magicians. The Heinz batted first, set a target of 112 for 7, which looked quite low from what I'd seen. That the wicket seemed to be a really good wicket, but then the Magicians came into bat and they were 65 for 4 off 15 overs, so they were needing another 58 off 5 overs, so it needed over 10s and over, and you're thinking, yeah, game over. A few of the locals around me were pretty happy with the bowling performance. They thought it was game over, and then Leah Tahuhu came to the crease and smoked 29 off just 10 balls. Wow. Which was awesome. She hit a massive 6 over deep square leg. I think she took around sort of 18 off 1 over, and yeah, in the end the Magicians cruised home. Shout out to Frankie Mackay as well. She played her 100th game. As we said last week, we love Frankie Mackay on this show, so pretty stoked with her getting 100 games. The second game was an absolute doozy. I'll use a...
Yes, I caught this one. On the television.
Use New Zealand phrase there. That was the Stags against the Kings. Stags won the toss, I believe, and chose to bat first, posting 217 for 4 off 20 overs. Dane Cleaver continued his good form, hitting 61 off 32, and then Tom Bruce came to the crease and from ball 1 just went mental. He got 93 runs off just 36 balls, and that was including 8 sixes. I have to admit, I left just as Tom Bruce got to the crease. So it was New Year's Eve, and this was around about sort of just
Where
before
else would you want to be?
I didn't want to be anywhere else, but I had to be somewhere else for our New Year's Eve celebrations. So yeah, and it was also stinking hot, and I am, despite the fact that I don't have ginger hair, I have ginger skin, so I was getting pretty red and pretty hot. Shout out to those of you who have fellow ginger skin and know exactly what I'm talking about. I do want to give a shout out to Blake Coburn though for one of the best boundary catches I think you'll see this summer. I will describe it, but I probably won't match Renee's enthusiasm with the way that she described her catch a few episodes ago. Blake Coburn for the Kings. He was on the boundary and the ball got hit to the square leg boundary, and you're thinking as soon as it hits the bat, that's 6 in between the 2 fielders. Absolutely fantastic. He sprinted round the boundary, he looked up and he was like, oh, there's the ball, as we've already decided that is what professional cricketers say when they see the ball.
Absolutely.
He did a full length 2-handed dived catch over the boundary rope. He dived over the boundary rope and flicked it up to his mate, who I can't remember, who ran round and took the catch. So that was quite phenomenal, to the point where even the locals had to stand up and applaud it, and that's how you know it's a good catch. The Kings were set 200.
I just want to say, Mark,
go.
Can I just interrupt and I say, I want to give a shout out to Blake Coburn as well for having fantastic hair.
Why did I not see that one coming? Because he took off his cap and I thought, Renee will like this. Renee will like this. The Kings were set 218 to win, and you're thinking, do you know what, 20 overs, it's going to be pretty difficult batting 4th on a pitch effectively, given that obviously the Heinz and the Magicians had played already and the Stags had batted first. But they won it at a canter, finishing on 200.
I could not believe this.
They went absolutely mental, 221 for 5 with 16 balls to spare. Leo Carter was the mainstay of the innings with 56 from 35 balls. Fletcher came in and at 48 off just 21, and Henry Shipley, who I don't know if he's actually an all-rounder or just had a good performance with the bat. I guess he's a number 7 batsman. He came in and off 11 balls smoked 39 runs. So quite an incredible victory there.
Yeah, a really great victory there for the Kings. All right, let's talk about this week coming up. It's Wellington versus Otago. That's the top 2 women battling it out. They are at the top of the women's table at the moment. We also have Auckland versus Canterbury, and then Central versus Wellington on Saturday. And Northern having a week off this week. Now, Mark, I can't wait to get back to the outer oval here in Auckland with crowds this week. If you are around, come down. I will be there. Mark won't because he sucks.
Mark has a relatively new job and therefore can't afford the time off in his relatively new job, unfortunately. It's quite a busy period of year for us, but I may change my mind tomorrow and will possibly think, do you know, where's it, Friday this week, isn't it? I may well try and take off a couple of hours, leave early and join you partway through the first innings, because I get genuine FOMO.
He does. I hope to see Henry Shipley back in form. Hopefully he will smack a few sixes into the petrol station across the road. Then I'm thinking Mark Chapman's going to come out and smack a few more to win the game for the Aces. We will bring you all that action next week.
And as usual, true to form, we will finish off with an 11 of the week, courtesy of Renee. Now, what do we have this week, Renee?
Well, Mark, last week you made a comment, and literally just a throwaway comment, but I capitalised on it and I thought I'm going to prove you wrong. You said that wide brim hats are no longer in fashion. Well, this week, Mark, we have the first 11 of players that wear wide brim hats on the field. Are you ready?
I am born ready, but especially for this because I like being proved wrong. I don't really.
So at number 1, opening the batting, we have Jeet Raval. And at 2, Marc Richardson. 3, Andrew Strauss. And 4, Michael Clark. Always love to see him in a wide brim hat.
Yes, good call.
And at 5, a late addition is Doug Bracewell. He's just started rocking one for the Stags this year. I do realise he does not usually bat at 5, but that was my one spare spot.
Yep, that's fine.
And at 6, whether he has a bald head or a mullet, it still looks good. It's Colin de Grandhomme. 7, Jack Russell. Bring back the mullet. 7, Jack Russell. 8 is Shane Warne. And at 9, Brett Lee. And at 10, Lassith Malinga. I really liked his hat. I thought that was a good look. And rounding off at 11 is Andy Paddock.
Interesting. There was one name in there that I was fully expecting that you have missed out.
Oh, who have I missed?
I thought you were going to put Stuart Broad in.
Oh, no, I have not put Stuart Broad in because every time I'm like, Mark, let's make an 11, and you're all like, oh, Ben Stokes, Stuart Broad.
If Ben Stokes wore a wide-brimmed hat, he would 100% be in this 11, but he doesn't because he's just too cool for it. So that is your 11 of the week. If, as always, you feel like there are players that have been missed out, or maybe there is a number 5 batsman out there that is not Doug Bracewell, maybe you could just flick us a little tweet there on Twitter. Oh, I think he does do a job at 5 sometimes for the Stags, doesn't he, when they need some quick runs? I think he could come out and do a job.
Up at 7, I think.
Fair enough. Flick us a tweet at back of a length with a little underscore, or you can go to our Instagram page at back of a length, which quite a few people are doing at the moment after you posted a reel.
Yes, I did post a reel from Bay Oval. I'll try to catch another one at the Aces game. It seems like you guys like it when we're on the sideline cheering and chanting and applauding. A particular highlight of that reel is standing up for Devin Conway's 100. Yep. Well, that is the episode of the week. I want to give another massive shout out to everyone that was on the bank of the Bay Oval. Made so many new friends. It just makes my warm heart nice and fuzzy. Now the Blackcaps are playing Bangladesh again next week. They may have lost their last 3 games, Mark, but they are still the World Test Championship champions, so we will ride on those coattails for a long time, don't you think?
I think that's probably right to do so. The first major trophy that New Zealand cricket has won, so we'll probably ride on that coattail until they win the next one, which hopefully will be either the T20 World Cup or the next Test Match, but they will need some good performances in the Test Championship to get there. I believe we're going to lead out with another chant from the Bay Oval.
Yes, this is another chant that we did at the Bay Oval, reminding everyone that the Blackcaps are the World Test Championships. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
We will see you next week with an England Ashes victory under their belt. Go on, England!
God.